In the late 90s and early 2000s, across the United States, state hospitals were closed, and all of the patients were moved into the community into group homes. Here is their story. Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to Psychology Eats. So, what's eating you? Well, today I'm back with a story time. I'm back with a story time. Now, you saw the intro. In the intro, I showed you a few pictures of institutions that are here and that were here. I think I showed you, yeah, I showed you Greystone Psychiatric Hospital that was in North Jersey, but it's been demolished. And I also showed you Allentown State Hospital that was in Pennsylvania, and that one has also been demolished. Most of the large institutions have been demolished, and the process started in, I'm going to say, like the 90s, the late 90s through the 2000s. And it's called deinstitutionalization, is when the states all across the United States, they started to shut down the big institutions. And the main reason why, well, the main reason why the states claim that they shut down the institutions is because they claim their reasoning was that there was abuse, and there was a lot of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, to the patients. But the main reason why is that those big institutions were just not cost effective, and so they figured out a way to um, provide treatment and services to people who were institutionalized but in the community. And in the community, it was more cost, it was cheaper, it was cheaper. And so that is what they did. And so this is the story of, what I'm gonna call her, let's call her Sue. We're gonna call her Sue because, like I said, if you watch my other video, um th- I worked in the field for over 30 years, so I have a lot of stories. But I'm really focusing on, like, my experience working with patients who were leaving the institutions and coming into the group home world. And that was my first experience working in the field, was in group homes. So I was very, I was young, and I didn't even understand a lot about mental illness at all. I really did. And I don't know why them people hired me, because I really did not know. And it was an entry level position to work in a group home. And I guess they figured you'll learn. And I sure learned. But anyway, so part of my duties was to go to the big institution. At that time, it was Greystone. Look it up. Look up Greystone Psychiatric Hospital in New Jersey. And at that time, part of our job was to go to the institution to pick up clients. And so I'm trying so hard not to say her real name. So Susie, what I say, Susie? So Sue was in the hospital. She had been in the institution since she was about 18 or 19 years old. And a little backstory on her was that she was the only child to her parents, and her mom had died. And so her father was her caregiver. And so he sent her, she went to college when she was 18 years old. And her first semester of college is when the onset of the schizophrenia began. And so she went to college. She had no signs or symptoms of being schizophrenic. But then once she was in her first semester, she started hearing voices, acting out bizarrely, hallucinating. And so, of course, they called her father and said, "You need to come and get her, da da da." And so I remember that her symptoms got so worse, he couldn't keep her at home. And so back then they went to an institution. And so she had been in the institution for a few years. And then they started that process of deinstitutionalization, and she was eligible to come in and live in the group home. Woo! And so here I go, honey. Me and another staff, and she was just as young and naive as I was. And so the group home was not far from the institution. Like it was probably 20 minutes or so from the institution. And so back then we were driving these big old 12 passenger vans. Girl, I'll be wheeling that thing though. So I wheeled it. I remember I was driving. And so we was like, oh, they were like, oh, you going to the institution, go to this building because you picking up this client, Sue, blah, blah, blah. The staff will have her ready when you get there. So we get to the institution and we drive down and honey, you have to see, if you want to see this institution, I might try to insert like a little video or something of the institution. If I don't, just because I got lazy. But if I do, I wish I could show you like the long, winding road to get to this institution. And then once you get there, it's all these buildings, all these brick buildings. But it was pretty. Like the grass was pretty, the trees were pretty. Like it was an institution, but they kept the grounds very nice. And so they were like, okay, she's in building A or whatever. Okay, so this is my first time. No, it was crazy because they sent me and this other staff, and we probably been working at a job for about 2-3 weeks. We didn't know nothing. Mind you, we had a bachelor's degree. You had to have a bachelor's degree to get this job at that time. At that time, to work in group homes, you had to have at least a bachelor's degree. So anyway, so we pull up. Mind you, we don't have no experience or whatever. So we pull up to the group. No, we pull up to like the way the institution worked. Like you could be in like a big giant like building with lots and lots of people, and then they titrate you down to like I forgot what they called them. They were houses, like regular houses, like 5-bedroom houses or something. Lord, if anybody here from Greystone and y'all know what I'm talking about, tell me, give me the words for the buildings and all that stuff. But anyway, so we pull up, and so we there to pick up Sue. So we knock on the door, whatever. The staff is outside there, people's moving around. And so we from such and such. We here to pick up Sue. So I could tell by the look on the staff face, they was like, yeah, we know. Okay. I'm like, oh shit. So we pick Sue up. Well, we get there and we like, they like, well, there's Sue over there. So Sue's sitting there, she ain't saying nothing. We like, okay, Sue, come on. Obviously they have told her she's leaving. Her dad knows she's leaving. He's so excited. She's going to be able to live in the community again. She's getting out the institution. Okay, great. We get Sue in the van. Now we back in the van now, child. And we about to drive Sue back to her new home. Sue don't know us. They never... Now that I think about it, we should have probably been doing like weekend visits, went there to see her for whatever, girl. They was getting them people up out of them institutions. They ain't have no time for no weekend visits and all that bullshit. They was like, you gotta go. We clearing this place out. Thousands of people lived in this institution. Okay. So then we get Sue. We in the van. Now me and the staff and the other staff, we both shaking in our boots because Sue is acting bizarre. She mumbling. She talking to herself. She's paranoid schizophrenic. And we shaking in our boots. Okay. So we in the van and Sue, she ain't saying nothing at first. Then she starts going off. You mother fudges, you bad judge, you suck my dad. Is that, going off. And we like, and I'm just going to drive. We just going to drive. Because I know when we get back to the group home, supervisor going to be there. And she's been experienced for years. And so I'm like, we got to get her back to the group home. So we get her back to the group home, and oh my God, she going off. She just a cussing. She carrying on. She telling us her thing was she was paranoid schizophrenic, but she hallucinated that penises were all over the place. She would always be like, "There's a dick." Like we'll be eating dinner, because we would eat dinner with them, and she'd be like, "There's a dick on my plate. Why is there a dick on my plate?" After some years of working with her, it was like, "Girl, ain't no dick on your plate." We learned how to deal with her and her hallucinations. So anyway, let's say a week or so has gone by and we are at our wits' end. We don't know what to do with it. Supervisor is actually very good at, dealing with her. But of course, I wasn't. The other staff wasn't because we was so new and we didn't know what to damn do. So we were just like, ugh. So anyway, so as time went on, as I said, days went on and stuff, we kind of got little bit better, a little more, less like scary of her because she was so bizarre. And you got to understand, back then, the medications were not that good. The medications that we have now to treat schizophrenics is so much better. People who have schizophrenia are able to live a much more a better life. They have way better, less side effects and all that stuff. I'll talk about that in another video, but let's just finish up Sue. So this is the first time that a client has ever called me the N word to my face. The first time, and I don't believe it's ever happened again. And I've worked in juvies, prisons, drug program, everywhere, and this has never happened. But that dang on Sue. So one day, I don't know what was going on. I think I was trying to get her to do something, probably take a bath or do the dishes, something. And Sue was like, "Leave me alone." And she was just, then she was like kind of mumbling. And then she was like, "You're a nigger." I was like, "Oh, no, you didn't, Sue." And even though she was very much hallucinating and delusional all the time, she knew exactly what she said. She knew exactly what she said. Because sidebar, a lot of the staff at these institutions are black. So anyway, it wasn't like she had never been around black people. And so she was like, "You nigger." And I'm like, "Oh no, you didn't." Like I didn't say that to her. I was just in shock. Like, "Girl, I didn't even know you knew that word." Um, And I'm going to say that probably for me and the supervisor at the time, because I remember every night before you left, you had to write, a note. And I remember writing a note and I was so pissed. And I was like, "Sue called me a nigger." I remember writing that in the log. We used to log, the day. And the supervisor was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you." And, you know, basically, she was telling me to get over it until Sue called her a dyke. And then all of a sudden, we had to change Sue's medication because Sue's mouth was too big. Oh, okay, girl. Anyway, so long story short, and I'm going to end it with there. Sue, great. Sue ended up being a candidate for a new medication that at that time was being used in Europe. And so that medication is called Clozaril. Back then, 20 years ago, Clozaril was a medication that we saw significant, great, wonderful changes, improvements in people with schizophrenia. And after maybe like when I was there, maybe a year or two later, and I was no longer with that agency. Sue had already started the trials for Clozaril, and as a result of these trials, she really got better. Like her voices diminished, the hallucinations, they were able to move her into more independent living. I actually saw her father at a conference because he was someone who spoke on behalf of people with mental illness and everything. And so he was at a conference, and at that point, I was not years, a couple of years, I wasn't with the agency anymore, and I saw him there. And, I went and said, how's Sue and how are you and that sort of thing. And that's when he was telling me about that she was actually back in college. I'm like, Sue was in college? He was like, yes. Because I remember when we wanted to try her on Clozaril, and me and him had a pretty decent relationship. And so I was talking to him about, I remember they said, like, talk to the dad, see if he'll be willing to have her trial this medication. And he was, I remember him asking me, would you let your family do it? And I'm like, yeah, the condition that she's in now and what they've seen in Europe with people who have been on this and it changed the trajectory of their life. Absolutely, I would have my family, if they were schizophrenic, try this medication. And she did. And so, anyway, the last that I knew about Sue was that she was actually doing really, really, really great, and that she was working on her degree again. And honestly, I mean, I still think about, I don't know how that medication at that time, and still is, really has been significant in improvement of people with schizophrenia. And there are other medications on the market too that actually do a great job with that population of people. But that is it. That is my story time. And stay tuned. I will probably drop another one real soon. Bye, guys.